activitats per mostrar el llegat de l'arquitecte i les seves diferents facetes com a creador i professor. El COAC hi contribueix en aquest homenatge coral amb un cicle de 3 xerrades patrocinades per Cosentino que vam iniciar la setmana passada amb una conversa entre Rafael Moneo i la Benedetta Tagliabue. Avui la Carme Vidós excusa la seva presència, però també tenim en aquesta segona sessió entre nosaltres a la Soraya Smithson, des de Gran Bretanya, artista, dissenyadora, creadora i escriptora multidisciplinària amb seu al Regne Unit, imbuïda en les idees arquitectòniques dels seus pares, Alison i Peter Smithson, treballa en peces de gran format o a escala íntima. Amiga personal d'Enric Miralles, en destaca la seva influència en els seus processos de pensament i estratègies de treball com a artistes. També comptem amb Joan Roig, co-comissari dels actes d'homenatge a Enric Miralles, arquitectes de 1981 per la XAP i soci d'Enric Batlle, formant Batlle i Roig. Des de llavors fins a l'actualitat, ha desenvolupat múltiples projectes en els àmbits d'edificació, paisatgisme i planejament, sempre des de la perspectiva del paisatge i de la natura, compromesos amb el medi ambient i implicats en la cerca de solucions per a resoldre l'emergència climàtica del nostre planeta. Ha impartit classes de projectes arquitectònics a l'Escola Tècnica Superior d'Arquitectura de Barcelona des de 1984, així com del Màster d'Arquitectura del Paisatge de la Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya UPC i de l'Escola Superior d'Agricultura de Barcelona ESAP. I finalment també tenim entre nosaltres la Benedetta Tagliabue, arquitecta internacionalment reconeguda, amb obres i encàrrecs arreu del món, fundadora amb Enric Miralles de l'estudi Miralles Tagliabue MBT el 1991, amb seus a Barcelona, Xangai i París. Combina la seva activitat com a arquitecta amb la de docent a escoles internacionals i universitats, així com participant de jurats en els més prestigiosos premis internacionals. També és fundadora i directora de la Fundació Enric Miralles, amb l'objectiu de promoure l'arquitectura experimental en l'esperit del seu desaparegut marit i soci, Enric Miralles. Moltes gràcies, Soraya, Joan, Benedetta, Enric.
So Soraya, I don't know if we see each other well. We see you very big, and can you hear us so that we know how the conversation can go on in this very strange hybrid way?
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
Fantastic. So it's from both sides.
Yes.
So I think last time we had a conversation and we decided that probably you have now some words by yourself. So we'll let you start.
Okay, I will attempt to seamlessly share my screen. Wow. Can you see my screen?
We do.
Okay, I call this talk Thinking About Enric. Firstly, I would like to thank the Miralles Foundation, Barcelona City Council, and the Cultural Department of the Catalan Architecture Association, COAC, for inviting me to be part of this celebration of Enric Miralles. It is a pleasure to be able to share with you some of my recollections of Enric. I'm a reluctant speaker, so forgive stumbles, mumbles, and possible shy-induced drone of delivery. I met Enric and Carme Painos through my parents, Alison and Smithson. Enric and Carme were students of my father at the Ilaud School of Italy, and later my mother taught with Enric at Barcelona School of Architecture. I'd met them first when they visited the UK and stayed with us. Then in 1986, with my parents, we made a road trip from Barcelona to Cordova, Granada and Seville. 5 adults in a car get to know one another well. Briefly, from autumn 1988 into early summer 1989, along with my husband Hugo, I made architectural models for them. We landed this job when we stopped over in Barcelona, returning to the UK from southern Spain in a 1972 Cadillac. They had a lot of work in the office and were in need of models, and we were young and somewhat jobless, hence the strange task of driving a Cadillac to London. I remember us all going out for dinner, and Enric exuberantly driving the Cadillac back from the restaurant, smoking a cigar and exalting the architecture layout of Barcelona, a city he loved. This was an exciting moment in Spain and Barcelona in particular, burgeoning freedoms and optimism 13 years after Franco's death, and a huge infrastructure building program of sports halls, schools, and civic areas, and the Olympics were coming in 1990. Enric and Carme's office on the Diagonal was also their home, and this combination of domestic and professional life was familiar to me. My parents' office was always in the house, so I grew up surrounded by large tables, drawing boards, and the ephemera of an architectural practice all around. And of course, all conversations infiltrated by the projects on the drawing board and architecture in general. My parents sat at desks opposite each other. Enric and Carme sat next to each other on a block of 6 desks. Every afternoon, the office would expand as students from the architectural school who had lectures in the morning turned up to work. Eva Pratt, Seydouche, and Albert. It was a phenomenal time to be in this office. The personal and the public intermingled. Talk was always passionate, rapid, fervent, urgent, as ideas and convictions were paramount. Professional expertise was mixed in with the domestic. It was an office as a family. I feel this home analogy can be extended further into the way schemes developed. A huge pot brewed with numerous ingredients, only one of which would have been the commissioning specifications. Various things would be added, amounts argued over, and secret spices found. Then from the pot, an elaborate, structurally astonishing new dish would emerge. Hugo and I worked in a little room down the corridor from the drawing office. We made models of public space, landscaping, sports halls, and the Olympics archery range. We improvised with what was around and what we could buy at the fantastic Servicio Estación Ferretería, where you can pretty much find everything. We used an electric kettle to steam bend the plywood to make complex roof structures, and the fridge to speed up gluing time, obviously always leaving in the essential Chiveka beer. The model building went hand in hand with the development of a scheme, and sometimes we would be making models ahead of drawings. I remember at least one instance of Enric coming into the room where we worked, measuring an element and returning to his drawings with the scale determined. Being British, we instigated an afternoon tea ritual where everyone would congregate in the kitchen and talk. Despite our failure to grasp a single word of Catalan or Castilian, we made lifelong friends. Carme was more talkative than Enric, sharing, explaining, thinking by conversation. Enric was secretive, brooding, thinking by doing. For him, the act of drawing brought forth solutions. My abiding image of Enric is him sitting at his drawing board. His capacity to sit and work was extraordinary. Hours of thinking with his hands through the lines that slowly meshed across the surface of the tracing paper. He was focused in a way I only get when sculpting in clay, when one becomes so absorbed in the process that all outside distractions fade. Often it felt like a scheme Enric was working on had become something autonomous. Enric simply relinquished himself to the process of drawing and allowing the developing scheme to reveal itself to him. He had a complete trust in the process of thinking by mark making. He understood the scheme would flow forward into something realizable by a conflation of mind and the hand working together to create something new. It is magic when this happens, when one becomes simply the conduit of the creative process. From Enric, I learned to trust my creative instincts and understand that the reason why things evolve as they do will become apparent. Believe sufficiently in the initial idea, make, play, alter, adjust, redraw, and what was obscure will reveal itself. The drawings Enric produced are beautiful. They spread voluptuously across the paper and express exactly how the building too will hug its site, sit comfortably in a location, and envelop the user in a comfort and luxury of detail with consideration for occupation whilst being structurally sound and engaging. Enric created space, and I don't just mean architectural spaces. He created spaces where things could happen, around the dinner table, in the classroom, in the office. Enric made space for conversations to start and possibilities occur. When one talked with Enric, you had to work. He posed questions that required one to really consider the response. He introduced you to concepts, artists, text, and a plethora of resources to follow up and reflect upon. Enric was always thinking. You could almost hear the cogs whirring in his head, but his thoughts were often tangential to architecture. He talked less directly about project, more about how a site sat in its location, or a painting with similar colours or forms, or of a book he was currently reading. He was a magpie, always gathering, storing, and reshuffling snippets that would later be called upon. My mother would have described Enric's methodology as squirreling away. He hoarded information and visual stimulus as if they were nuts, and he would unbury them later when the perfect moment came to use them. This meant he was continuously in the act of being attentive, and it was this trait that made him a fantastic teacher. An incidental anecdote or reference to a text, object, place, artwork always stimulated new thoughts, connections, and great understanding of the design process. Dissolution of the marriage and office happened. Projects underway were separated, and the office temporarily dispersed. Hugo and I returned to the UK and hung up our model-making aprons. We remained in regular contact despite distance and life's travails. Conversation ebbed and flowed, but the exchange of ideas continued. I worked again with Enric on designing decorative elements for the editorial headquarters building in Madrid. Then, when Enric died in 2000, Benedetta Tagliabue asked me to suggest resolutions to the Canongate wall, the 30-metre by 5-metre double-curved wall that skirts the Scottish Parliament on Canongate Road, leading to the Parliamentarian's entrance. Intuitively, I felt my way into the design by using Enric's notebooks of sketches, doodles, and his reference books on Edinburgh. Enric was funny. He had a verbal and visual dexterity, could play language games in English, loved Cockney rhyming slang, and swore a lot. He was mischievous in mind and action, but equally encouraging. Enric repeatedly demonstrated a transformative understanding of the world, seeking and forming relationships, exploring numerous positions and perspectives. Meanings were constructed in a non-linear and scattered manner by process of looking assiduously and learning intuitively. It is hard to talk about a close friend in the past tense. Enric was so alive, it has never seemed possible that he died so young, leaving us all to wander on, unguided and untethered from his unique tiller. Enric was a bear of a man, and I still miss him.
Thank you, Soraya. I think it was really impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. Really, it was incredible. So it's kind of not so easy to follow in a conversation after that. But I think many things you were explaining are really part of the memory. But also it was so fantastic to see your way of remembering. It's really incredible. I liked also to see that you were talking to us and explaining in this written lecture, which reminds me so much about your own parents.
Yes.
They were doing like that, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
But it's really effective. It's really impressive because most of the things are so clearly said, so fantastically said. So I don't know how to start the conversation.
Oh, why don't you explain the work of Soraya in your studio?
Yes.
Related
Also,
with...
let's maybe go directly to other images that I prepared today, remembering, as you have prepared this fantastic PowerPoint, and you really have to give me most of the images, please. but I prepared also some other images relating to what you said about our collaboration in the Canongate, in the Scottish Parliament, but also as you are our how to say, our best artist in the house. Let's say we were buying your art and loving your art and putting your art in the house, and sometimes you were making art as a present. And so I can show now some of the images. So I think it's, I'm so used to see this fantastic collage next to Enric drawers, Enric cupboard, and it's a beautiful big picture that you did and you gave to him, and it's Enric like a bear. So it's really fantastic. And last time that we spoke, you said, oh yes, he put this portrait that I did of him next to his cupboard as if it's his mirror. This is very lovely. Maybe you can explain a little bit about this fantastic piece of art that you produced for Enric.
It's funny to see. I mean, I know it very well in that location, and I love the fact that that's where Enric placed it.
Let's see if I can go on.
But it's funny to, I think a lot of my work, like I said with Enric, it's sort of, you just feel your way intuitively. I just wanted to make something that captured, a friend that meant so much to me and had been quite, it was influential in developing a sort of working methodology for me to continue. And he was always so encouraging. So I think, I made it as a sort of, because I felt it was something I wanted to do, that kind of I needed to express some of these things.
This is lovely, because today you're saying something like, as if Enric was influential in your art. I never thought about it,
I think, yes, I mean, it's probably one of those things when you, with a teacher or a friend, you are not conscious of necessarily their influence until you later reflect back. But I think, a combination of my parents and someone like Enric, I work with lots of snippets of found things, and whether it's sort of written text or other artists or collaging found bits of material. And Enric, like I said, that was the way his sort of mind worked. He was always gathering bits and pieces together.
And can you explain a little bit why? Sometimes people is asking me, I say, oh, why is he a bear? Why does he have a fish in his hands? Why is the cross flying on top of his head? Why a lot of things? There is a giraffe, there is Guernica, there is some cerveza. I don't know, maybe you can give some explanation about this secret piece.
I think some of it maybe needs to either remain secret or unknown. They may even be unknown to me. It is a long time ago. I think it speaks a lot of in a way, Catalonia and Barcelona and a bit of the sort of the Gaudi kind of tiles. And making reference to the Guernica and obviously and the Spanish bull and beer and all the things that kind of go in to make up her personality. And the bear is such a fantastic animal, and it has a sort of presence, and I know they're sort of scary, but they also have a sort of this nature where you feel they're almost human, particularly when they sort of stand on their back legs. And I think it just felt like Enric's personality and was so large, it was like a sort of being engulfed by a bear when you were with him.
He liked it for sure. I have to say that he was also copying you, I don't know if you're conscious about it, but you know that you did this with pieces of sugar taken from the bars and things that you found somehow. And Enric was really loving to do things like that. And I think the influence is yours.
Yes. I think that's, that thing of sort of unconsciously the dialogue that kind of happens between people. Like I say, he was always sort of gathering bits and pieces, and maybe I also do that thing of gathering bits of snippets and seeing something, and then they kind of merge into your work.
Oh, fantastic. And I'm very also grateful to you that you put a list of books, and more or less you can recognize something, no? Probably this was the obsession of Enric in those years.
Yes.
You see Rodchenko and Calders, Malevich.
Yes.
Very beautifully done. And also with the stamps. I think he was kind of really adoring the idea of the stamps, which were coming for sure from your parents and also from you. This beautiful, graphic, beautiful way of doing things. Really fantastic. So I don't know. Maybe I can go on also in the next PowerPoint if from we've changed, and we go on the next collaboration we had together. So I think it's also an occasion in this case to explain about a piece of the Scottish Parliament, which very seldom we could explain, because the Scottish Parliament is such a complex piece that at the end you can explain it only as the piece in itself, and it's very difficult to arrive to the detail. But I think this story of the Canongate Wall, which is, it's not so easy to point, but it's at the end of the Royal Mile, where you can see the finishing the houses, this was a very complex piece because Enric had it in mind, but when he died, he left only some sketches. And that wall is very important because we maintained the series of old houses, Queensberry House, and then the adjoined part of Queensberry. And then suddenly the new building was starting in the middle of the old city after going down the Royal Mile. So I think he was kind of really thinking about what to do there. And he just left some ideas. You know, one of the ideas was this. I think this was a war, I think, in Serbia, and people looking at the wall, and so there were some kind of pieces of paper pinned on the wall, and he had written in his notebook, it should have this sense of necessity. So that wall should attract the attention of people, but really for them to find something, no? So we didn't really know how. Then you were looking at the notebooks of Enric, and Enric was drawing the city, and sometimes the city was becoming a landscape, and there was also this sketches of the wall together with photographs of the family, of myself, with the children. And these were the sketches that we had. We didn't have much more, no? We had this section which was saying you have to have a kind of a cat at the height of the eyes, but we didn't know how to do a cat in a wall. And this cat is kind of going horizontal while the Royal Mile is going down. Then he had these photos, and I kind of understood that these photos was explaining the city and the landscape as a very familiar place, no? I think he wanted that, no? He wanted the wall to be a kind of a familiar relation to the people who would see it. And you were working on top of all these materials and much more, and you knew a lot about Enric, and you did this piece, which is, I think, 4 meters long or something like that, 3 meters long, which is wonderful, and which I kept directly in the studio without asking you. But it's really a beautiful piece, and you have cast here the stories. The sketches is on the left side, the landscape is appearing on down, or lichens are appearing, the books are appearing, the cigar boxes are appearing. And then it was fantastic because really at the end we could build it. And Joan Callis is here in the room, and he knows the difficulty of convincing everybody that this kind of crazy ideas and crazy drawings dealing with the necessity of stones and having a natural part of stones in the old Royal Mile. And then there was much more, no? There was this idea of literature that would be cast inside the wall, and there would be different fragments of literature, and then you choose many different stones of Scotland coming from the different counties. I think it's a very complicated piece, and it's kind of incredible that actually we could build it, and I'm very happy about it, because what Enric wanted, which was to have a piece at the level of the eyes, so at the level of the people, that people could touch, and people could read, and people could really relate to words. This actually happened, and also it's really kind of fantastic that you were so totally involved in this making of this piece of the architecture of the Scottish Parliament. So I don't know, maybe you can say things about that.
It was an astonishing thing to be involved in, and I've always been, it's been absolutely wonderful. It was wonderful to sort of work in the office at this time and with you and Joan and Carl. And I think when I first made the sketches and that proposal, my understanding was that I was just, in a way, proposing what could happen. So I think it alleviated me from any sort of, if I'd thought I was actually going to do the job, I might have been more reticent to just intuitively just feel my way into it, gather all the information from Enric, because I felt I was just making a proposal of what I think his thoughts were leading to. And I didn't worry in a way about whether it was possible to build it. And the whole journey was amazing, from realizing that you were taking forward my proposal, and then all the complex technical things that had to go on, which one was fantastic with sort of organizing and with the concrete makers. And it has done all of those things that you said that we felt that Enric wanted, about having a wall that people, it was on a scale, a human scale, that it became their parliament building rather than this austere, and I think that's wonderful to kind of made it belong to the people and approachable. And
I think you were involved also with the people doing the writings or choosing the stones or this.
Yes, I had meetings, because part of the overall commission for the Scottish Parliament was that the parliamentarians wanted some Scottish text included in the Parliament, and also examples of stone, and so that we combine them, everything in this wall. And so there was an amazing set of stone carvers who, went and selected the stone and found all the huge pieces that sort of stick out, as well as the types that they could carve the text in, and they, fitted the text to the shapes and the spaces. So it was an amazing collaboration of lots of people involved.
And maybe we could obtain a little bit what Enric wanted, no? In a way, I think that this is a good way to arrive to the Scottish Parliament, because until this point, you see that you don't see any new building there. And people is very entertained into literature, which is a kind of a fantastic pieces, I have to say. So you get very involved. And then when you are spiritually prepared, then you discover the building, which I think is...
Yes, it sort of bridges the gap between the old buildings as you come up the Canongate and Miralles Mile, and then you kind of, yes, I think it does. It prepares you for that sort of the vista that you suddenly, as you round the corner at the end of this wall, and you're greeted with the modern and the building. So it's a fantastic kind of way of leading the eye and the body from one part of the town's history to the next.
This is a piece from Macintosh.
Yes.
And here is some images of the day we went for the opening, and we visited the Parliament. And it's very nice because we are all with the family. Joanne brought all the family, I brought all the family, you brought all the family.
Yes.
And then we have some of these very lovely photographs. Our daughter and son seated at the places for the members of the Scottish Parliament, just playing with a very new desk. And I have a photo of you.
Yeah.
Taking
and my son Lucas, yes.
Exactly, of your son Lucas. So you see that it's kind of, I thought this was a very beautiful visit because it was making the parliament so unofficial. And then soon afterwards we had our queen arriving and opening the parliament. And I think what Enric would have liked more than anything, it would have been to know that among this public, there was also Sean Connery. That actually didn't meet. But
Yes.
okay, so now we can maybe leave the PowerPoint, we can take it out and we can follow the conversation maybe. I let Joanne talk a little bit.
I don't know you, you don't know me, but I'm the other curator of the exhibition, and I have 2 questions for you. One, the most important is I would like to know you better. Can you explain us more about you? And I don't know, you grow surrounded by people who are artists, not only your family, your parents, but also Karma and Enric and also Benedetta and so on. How all this situation influenced you, and who are you in between all these quantity of members of the royalty of the architecture in the world? How do you feel in this pot? You know.
Yes, I do feel I am in a pot with lots of different ingredients. I don't know whether, can you ever know what would have happened? You can't imagine yourself not being your parents' child. I mean, that's the only upbringing you can ever experience is the one. So, and like I said in the talk, the office was always in the house, and so along with my brother and sister, I think we imbibed architecture and conversations about design and just a very rabid sort of eye right from the beginning. I mean, the house was sort of full of things and books and conversation. And when I was very small, I had a desk in my parents' office, so I would be working away at drawing and cutting out bits of paper while they were working. So I think it was absolutely from the very start of me. I just never did not make or spend my time creating. And I think particularly my mother was like this, when she, the evenings, and it's a habit I have of, you can't watch television without sewing. You can't, she was always making, whether it be shirts or knitting or making a tapestry. So that constant activity and creating is all around. And I think that's why I felt so much at home when working with Enric, and Benedetta, because, you know, sort of being in the office is like kind of being, it's like coming home for me. It's you know, just sort of surrounded by desks and books and people thinking and working and talking about making. I don't know whether that answers your question, but
another question. This is more related with Enric, that we are talking about Enric today. How was the relationship between Enric and your parents, especially with Peter?
It seemed that it was incredibly friendly from the moment they first met at Illoud, from the moment they were students. Wow. And I think the story I was told by my father was that, because the Illoud school kind of occupied the sort of the university in the town that they were, I think they were in Siena at that time, but they'd been in Urbino, they moved around, and later they were in Venice. But I think when Enric was there, he was in Siena. And so they were occupying, so they would be in sort of dorm things, and they'd have to share bathrooms. And Enric and Carme were sharing a bathroom with my parents. And so in a way, one of the times they kind of met was with my father washing his shirt in the bathroom sink. So it was already suddenly very sort of kind of close and domestic, and yeah, so I think from the start there, it was this incredible close connection. And my father had a mischievous sort of sense of humor. And I think with Enric, he could play with that. And yeah, I think they always felt a great deal of empathy between themselves. And Enric had, you know, he, like them, had read everything and had thought about things. So the conversations could flow so incredibly naturally between them.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, the week before, in the same room, was seated here Rafael Moneo, and he made a small lecture about Enric. And I think that one of the things that Moneo was more worried, well, he tried to explain all the time that finally Enric, it was a great architect. But in the beginning, when he was the teacher of Enric, he made, ¿cómo se dice, apuesta?
A bet.
A bet?
A bet.
Of Enric. But during a lot of time, he doubted about this debt, you know? Because he said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not so good architect, you know? And I liked when you explained that the connection with Peter was so immediately and was not related especially about architecture, but the person.
Yeah.
And I like that. Finally, Moneo said, okay, I'm not wrong. He was a good architect. But it's very strange when one person is so close to the other, at the same time, it doubts if the choice is correct or not, you know? And this is very Spanish, I think, and very Catholic, this idea of maybe I make a mistake with this person. No? And I like that Peter have not doubts about the relationship. ¿No? Un poco, Moneo dudaba un poco, ¿no? Le hicimos confianza, pero no sé.
No, but... 20 years.
Maybe the people of the room, they have some questions for Soraya.
Silence.
Silence. Questions is always a terrible thing. I have to say, I'm always very scared about posing any question. But, but here we have a candidate.
Okay, I don't know if the mic works.
Yeah. No?
Yeah.
I'm losing my sight, so now maybe here. Now you hear. Okay. Hi, Soraya. I'm Anna Bach.
Hello.
I visited you some years ago in the archive, in the family archive, and I wanted to kind of repeat Joan's question. He asked for Peter's relationship with Enric Miralles. I would like to know a little bit more of Alison's relationship with Enric. Alison spent 1 year being the visiting professor in ETSAB, and I imagine they had lots of time to get to know each other better during that year. Do you recall any comments of Alison, of conversations, of experiences together, or just the friendship?
I think in some one way, one probably doesn't, in retrospect, you realize maybe with my parents, one should have been paying more attention to exactly what was going on. You know, when people, you know, like yourself, sort of other architects and researchers come and they ask you very specific questions about what they were doing or why they were here or what they were thinking, that you realize that you were blithely just getting on with your life and not paying very much attention to what they were doing. I do know that my mother loved teaching in Barcelona. I mean, I think everybody who experiences that city falls in love with it. And, you know, it's sort of the way it sits in the landscape with the port and the ring of mountains and its sort of medieval sort of Gothic centre and then the grid pattern and the weather. My mother loved sunshine. And during this year, they made a very nice publication about this, the solar pavilion, my parents' house in Wiltshire. And I think putting together a book with Enric, that thing when you're working on a project where you're doing the layout and looking at illustrations and because the text is very minimal and is based on my mother's, she kept a tiny diary, but basically would just sort of say little words about what the weekend, sort of the weather and whether, you know, something like we'd be picking red currants or pruning the apples. It wasn't really it wasn't a sort of family, so it had no familial sort of recollections or big bits of information, but it was sort of very small snippets of sort of kind of factual, almost environmental conditions and activities. And I think those are the kind of things that Enric was very in tune with. So I think that process of making the book alongside the teaching would have been a source of a huge amount of, in a way, their conversation and their kind of discovering of each other. Mm-hmm. So that's my thoughts on that, yeah.
Thank you. And then just a small question, comment. In Enric's office, you were making models And as far as I know, your parents were not very fond of model making. So
No, no.
I imagine you never had that job in your parents' office.
No, I never had that job in my parents' office. Although when we came back, me and my husband, we did actually make one model for them. They entered the competition for the Acropolis Museum in Athens, and the competition required that there was a model. So because we'd just come back, we made the model for that. But yes, it's funny because I think I have I kind of have a love of models for what they look like. I love that miniaturization, not necessarily for what it's almost like I like the doll's house nature of the models, and the dioramas that you get at the Science Museum. But I think, yeah, I didn't know that they didn't make many models, but I guess, again, it's one of those things you don't necessarily think about it, and then it's only going later that suddenly you realize that that's quite unusual for architects.
Do you think that in the Acropolis model there was any Miralles influence?
It was a big, I remember the big expanse of roof, which felt, because we'd just been doing models of big Enric roofs, felt that there was a connection. I mean, I think the cross-fertilization happens all the time, and particularly with people, yes, I think the conversations and working with Enric will have influenced them as much as, in a way, he was influenced by my scrap making and my parents' work.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much.
Hello, Soraya.
Hello.
Hello. One of the results of the stay by Alison Smithson in Barcelona with Enric Miralles was the publication of the book about Upper Lawn Pavilion. What is your feeling about this book, and very related with your childhood?
Yeah, well, that was the book I was talking about, that the dialogue must have, the close conversations that must have happened between my mother and I mean, for me, it's one of the nicest publications because it's very personal. It was our family house where we went to the country at weekends and holidays. And so, unlike the rest of their books, it does feel to encapsulate, in a way, the Smithsons as a family unit, this house, and all of the pictures are of the house and of us playing in the garden, and yes, and it tells the sort of tale of the occupation. And I think ideas of occupation feels pertinent, I think, to so much of what my parents' architecture was about, of how to be in a space. And the Solar Pavilion, the Upper Lawn Pavilion house in the country, kind of was a sort of embodiment of them sort of experimenting and living that kind of the living box, sort of camping box for for sort of playing in.
Okay, thank you.
Sì. Est-ce que leía José María Torres Nadal mi ha escrito en este momento, estaba leyendo quizá una pregunta. Bueno, pero no es una pregunta, es como un comentario, entonces no lo entiendo. So it's, I don't know if we have more questions, or maybe we already have taken your time and time of everybody over the hour. But I have to tell you, Soraya, that for me it was really special to be listening to you and to be here with you. It was like a door opening towards so many things and so many feelings and so many ways of thinking and ways of doing of a time. So I don't know, I think maybe it would be really very nice when the pandemic will let you to come here in Barcelona. And we found your Huesca model, you know, in the photos. It was so fresh, so new, so beautiful. To this. And I remember the city of Huesca took it. And I remember Enric getting very angry and saying, oh, why should they keep it? I'm sure they don't archive it as well as I do. And so I was sure the model was lost, because we asked in Huesca and they said, no, we don't know where the model is. They say, you see, the model is lost.
Yeah,
and then, exactly, by a miracle, we found it in our archives. So I don't know when and how we could obtain the model back, and now is in the exhibition, a little more broken than the one you've shown. But I can tell you that for sure, also your way of making model, your way of touching material, it was influential on Enric, on what you said about fertilization, conversations. There's a part of you in Enric. And then maybe also this doing models became more and more and more. And also in the exhibition, you see that they start with a small model in the cemetery, and then with the Scottish Parliament is you know, so your influence was there also in making more models.
It's been fantastic to be asked to do this and to actually reflect, because quite often one doesn't reflect and you forget an awful lot, and then when you revisit it, and I didn't even know I had images of the models, so I sort of thought, so I had to a little search to see if I had anything, and it was a sort of discovering a whole box of images I had no idea were there, and slightly shocked at how many models we made in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And like I say, that we were just doing it, you know, it's a sort of scalpels and glue and a kettle was kind of the equipment we had.
And you started to make the Montserrat landscape.
Yeah.
So Soraya, thank you so much for this wonderful intervention, and I hope to see you soon in person.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ciao, bye bye.
Bye.